guess in a general sense, I call myself a movement teacher. I have my strength and conditioning certification, and then my Pilates certification, my national Pilates certification. And then right now or I guess pre-COVID and currently right now, I went back to school to get my massage therapy license. So I was doing that, and then it kind of went on pause during COVID.
Or did you do
So
that virtually?
just a little bit, yeah.
Unless you do the Reiki, right? Or
Yeah, unless it's something more energy based, yeah. But I finished out the lecture portion of the massage therapy school and have to wait for things to resume in person. So yeah, I wanted to pull the body work world into the movement world, because when I've seen the most efficient and successful forms of maintaining strength or recovering connection or recovery in any way, I've seen it when those two worlds combine. So that's kind of that was the idea behind going back and getting my massage therapy license. So yeah, I played soccer and sports all growing up, and then played soccer all the way through college. And through sustaining quite a number of injuries, was working with physical therapists and rehab specialists to rehab as quickly as possible. And so I started to get really interested into the physical therapy world, and primarily the like orthopedic sports injury world within physical therapy. So yeah, through college, I did a number of internships and landed at Shriners Hospital in Sacramento, which is where I worked with my first patients under a physical therapist, children that had sustained spinal cord injuries and burns, because those are two things they specialize in. And that was the first thing that opened my eyes up to the whole neuro population, and what physical therapy and recovery and that kind of thing would look like with that population. And so that really piqued my interest. And then after college, I ended up moving down to Ecuador to work with children with cerebral palsy for a few months.
oh,
And really fell in love with again that kind of neuro population. And then I came back up here. I started working at a gym. It's called SciFit, Spinal Cord Injury Functional Integrated Therapy, which again continued to open my eyes up to working with people with spinal cord injuries and other neurological disabilities. And then made my way into the Pilates world, which pulled me more into that direction. It just made more sense for the goals I was trying to reach with my clients and with myself. I ended up applying to physical therapy school. I got in, but I really fell in love with the work I was doing. So I decided not to go to PT school and to kind of make my own way through this niche population and work. So I'm currently working. I had started my own nonprofit with a few friends a while back, which I recently just stepped down from right before COVID broke out. And that was again working with people who have disabilities and trying to pull those populations more into outdoors, into swimming, into triathlons. We hosted a couple of educational workshops and whatnot. So so right now again, pre-COVID, this is kind of funny in the middle of COVID, pre-COVID, I was working at a Pilates studio called Absolute Center in Lafayette, working with a bunch of different kinds of bodies, people with physical disabilities and ambulatory people. And and then kind of going off on my own, doing home visits, started working for BORP. So yeah, that's landed me here.
So is this the first time you've taught online?
Let's see. Yes. Yeah. Gosh, I had to think about that one because it's been so many months here teaching online now. Yes, that was, so in conjunction with teaching 2 classes a week at BORP, I've also been teaching 1 class a week with the Pilates studio in Lafayette. And yeah, that was really the first time that I had brought anything virtual, because it was, with this population, as you know, it's a lot of it has to be hands-on
Right.
to support people in whatever ways they need physically. So it didn't make much sense to be doing anything virtually pre-COVID, but we're finding ways around it, and these classes have been so awesome.
I
And
know.
I've been I've been really excited by the turnout. So yeah, the virtual world is working well so far.
So was it difficult for you to, to sort of reacclimate what you do in your routines and how you work with people into a virtual environment?
Big time. Yeah. That was a big adjustment, because I was used to working with just one person hands-on, where I'm was trying to meet as many of their needs as I can. And now all of a sudden we're in a virtual classroom, and there's 40 people on a screen with 40 different needs and abilities, um, and just that alone is challenging. And then it was also challenging. I realized I had to change my language and how I was teaching, to cater towards the folks that are blind or visually impaired, because
Right.
the language I was using was not, it wasn't for them originally. So yeah, that was also quite a big shift in the way that I cue, because cueing is such a big part of what I've learned and how I teach others, the kinds of verbal and tactile cues that I give on a day-to-day basis or in a virtual classroom. So yeah, it was a big adjustment, and I was getting a lot of really helpful feedback in that first month I was teaching, of, hey, this is my condition, and your class doesn't really work for me. Is there another way I could do XYZ? So, now I think I'm getting a little bit better at, whenever I'm teaching a certain movement or exercise, I'm thinking of, maybe 6 different kinds of abilities in my head, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to cue and give certain progressions and challenges for all of those abilities. So yeah, in the beginning, it was a really good learning experience.
Yeah, and so when you say just the terminology that you've used, standing athletes do this, seated athletes do that, was that something you had witnessed in a situation, or did you bring that into your own teaching? Because I'll tell you why, because it's really impressed me. And for my patient community, we started doing chair yoga virtually for people with myotonic dystrophy, which is, a really small community. But the woman who is teaching it, I told her about you, and I showed her one of your videos, on YouTube, and I said, think about the options, because it's so empowering to use that kind of language, calling everybody an athlete and making, some of the distinctions. So how did you start to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So before I taught these classes, um, there was actually already quite a few of either nonprofits or organizations or studios or gyms that were offering adaptive classes. And so I watched a good number of those classes from various instructors. And to be honest, I don't know where I picked up what language from which instructor. But I want to say Brent Knobs was one of them. He's local. He's based in the East Bay also. And then I was watching Adapt Fit, or one of those ones, and just to see what kinds of movements and what kind of language they were using. And yeah, I just liked that variation of, everybody's an athlete, and you might be on the floor, you might be seated, you might be standing, you might be kneeling, or you might be a seated athlete that has strength in their lower legs, and you might be able to use so there's all of these varying levels. So yeah, it was from watching others, and it was also language that I've been building up teaching this population and doing research and talking to people and just being in this community of what is language that is better to use than other language. You know, I don't like to use the word weak. I don't like to use the word, there's certain words I'm trying to stay away from.
Right.
And I'm sure that I'm still making mistakes and I'm still I'm still learning, and I'm sure there's certain people out there that hate some of the terms that I use, but yeah, you know, it's the language that I use, it's trying to be as inclusive as possible. So even something where I'm talking about seated and standing athletes, for example, I'm trying not to say you guys anymore. I'm trying to say y'all. So you know, that's been in the works for a year. So, but just trying to use as inclusive language as I can, where people don't feel that they're left out, or they don't, you know, there's not kind of a stinger from anything I'm saying. So
From terrible physical education teachers from our youth.
yeah. Yeah.
It took many years for me to get over that.
Yeah, yeah, it leaves a mark. Yeah, I would
So,
just encourage people um, to play and to explore. I think we often get so caught in what we're doing. You know, we're creatures of habit, and that shows in our movement, in our day-to-day movement, and our movement when we're, you know, quote unquote, working out or exercising. Um, and I just, yeah, I'm always encouraging people, whether it's one-on-one or in classes, to, you often hear the language I have of, see what it feels like if you do this,
mhm.
or play with this movement. And I'm always just trying to encourage people to listen to their bodies more. What feels good for them? What feels safe for them? What feels a little scary or a little edgy for them? Um, and to just play and explore and move their body in all of the different ways. And, you know, even when we're doing a structured kind of exercise, how can you vary an overhead press? How does it feel different with your arms back more, your arms in front more, or you know, moving your rib cage around? So I would just encourage people to continue to play and explore and bring curiosity into their everyday movement. Um, you know, when I'm brushing my teeth, and it doesn't have to be this stressful thing of, oh, I need 20 minutes or 45 minutes to get a workout in. There's this term I use that I love from Katie Bowman, um, who's a movement specialist, a biomechanic movement specialist. Anyway, she says stack your life, and what she means by that is, you know, us unloading the dishwasher or us cooking or us brushing our teeth can turn into an exploration or an opportunity for curiosity, where can I brush my teeth with my left hand when I'm usually doing it with my right hand? Can I balance on one leg? Can I put a rock mat, so it's like a tray full of rocks, in front of my sink when I'm doing the dishes, so my feet experience different textures and I'm working on my balance, and it's also helping with my digestion and everything like that. So yeah, it doesn't have to be this stressful thing of always trying to set aside time to work out. It can be, instead of grabbing something with your right hand, it can be grabbing it with your left hand, or instead of always turning to my right to grab the toilet paper, maybe I put the toilet paper on my left side. So yeah, I'm just always trying to encourage play and exploration and curiosity. So yeah, that's the only thing I would add.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leslie. This has been really, really wonderful.
Yes.